My heart raced as I opened the door and saw Lucas standing there, a familiar smile dancing on his lips. I felt a rush of nostalgia mixed with something more dangerous, something I couldn't quite name. The way he looked at me made my stomach flutter, and for a moment, it felt like the world outside faded away. "Hey, Alara," he said, his voice warm like the sun breaking through the clouds. "It's been a while." "Too long," I replied, trying to sound casual, but I could feel the heat creeping into my cheeks. The empty space Jonathan left behind felt heavy around me, but Lucas's presence filled the room with an electric energy that I could not ignore. As we talked, our conversation danced from light topics to deeper ones, the kind that made my heart thump louder in my chest. I could feel his gaze linger on me, and when our hands accidentally brushed against each other, it sent a shiver down my spine. What was happening? Was I really feeling this way about him? "Remember that summer at the lake?" Lucas asked, his eyes sparkling with the memory. "We had so much fun." I smiled, lost for a moment in the warmth of our shared history. "Yeah, we did. Those were good times." "Good times," he echoed, his voice low, almost a whisper. The way he said it made me feel like he was searching for something more in my eyes. I quickly looked away, trying to gather my thoughts. I loved Jonathan, didn't I? So why did being near Lucas feel so thrilling? I felt a knot form in my stomach as I wrestled with my feelings. Loyalty tugged at me, reminding me of the life I built with Jonathan. But the pull toward Lucas was undeniable. What did it mean? What was I willing to risk? "Are you okay?" Lucas asked, concern etching his features. "You look a bit lost." "I'm fine," I said too quickly, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about everything." He nodded, but I could tell he saw through my facade. "You know, I've missed you," he said softly, those words wrapping around me like a warm hug. "It's nice to be here again." "Yeah, it is," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. Our eyes locked, and I felt a spark ignite between us, something fierce and alive. But was it right? Could I let myself feel this way when Jonathan was still in the picture? "What if we—" Lucas started, his voice trailing off, leaving an open loop of possibilities hanging in the air. "What if we spent more time together? Just us?" My heart thumped loudly at the suggestion. I could feel the walls of my carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. "I don't know, Lucas. Things are complicated." "Complicated doesn't mean impossible," he said, his gaze steady. "Sometimes you have to follow your heart, even if it's scary." The weight of his words sat heavily on my chest. Could I really follow my heart? The thought terrified me, yet it also excited me in a way I hadn't felt in years. What did it mean to chase after something that felt so right yet so wrong? "Maybe," I said, my voice shaking slightly as I considered the idea. "But what about Jonathan?" The mention of his name hung in the air like a storm cloud. Lucas's expression turned serious, his brow furrowing as if he understood the battle raging within me. "You deserve to be happy, Alara. Whatever that looks like for you." Happiness. What did that even mean for me anymore? With each moment spent with Lucas, I felt the tension between duty and desire pulling me in two different directions. I wanted to reach out to him, to close the distance, and feel the warmth of his body next to mine. But what would that mean for Jonathan? "Can we just take it slow?" I finally said, my voice trembling with uncertainty. The question hung between us, a fragile bridge over an uncertain future. "Of course," Lucas replied, a soft smile returning to his face. "I just want to be here for you, whatever that looks like." I nodded, but my heart was already racing ahead, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. What would happen next? Could I navigate the twists and turns of my heart without losing everything I had? The answers felt out of reach, But one thing was clear. I was standing on the edge of temptation, and it was exhilarating. As I sat in the quiet of my living room, the shadows of the past began to creep in. I closed my eyes, and memories of my marriage with Jonathan flooded my mind. I could almost hear the laughter we once shared, but it felt distant now, like a song I used to know. I remembered one particular evening, a time that seemed perfect then, but now felt heavy with meaning. "Do you think we'll always be this happy?" I had asked Jonathan, my voice laced with hope. "Of course, Ilara. We're meant to be together," he replied, pulling me close. His smile was warm and reassuring, but I remember the slight edge in his voice, a hint of uncertainty that I chose to ignore. That night was filled with joy, yet beneath the surface, I felt something shift. The little things that once made me smile now sometimes felt like burdens. Our conversations turned into routines, and the spark we had began to dim. I often found myself wishing for more, yet I didn't know what that more was. When I thought of Lucas, a rush of excitement washed over me. It was like stepping into a sunbeam after a long winter. The connection we shared was undeniable, and it scared me. How could I feel this way? How could I want him when Jonathan was still in my life? "Hey, you okay?" Lucas asked, breaking through my thoughts. His voice was soft, filled with concern. I opened my eyes and met his gaze. "Yeah, just thinking about some old memories," I admitted, my heart pounding as I realized how vulnerable I was with him. "Mind sharing?" he encouraged, leaning in slightly. As I spoke, I could see the understanding in his eyes. I remember the first time Jonathan and I moved in together. I was so excited, but there were moments I felt alone, even in a crowded room. Lucas nodded, his expression serious. "It's tough when you want something, but it feels like it's slipping away. I get it." His openness surprised me, and it made me feel closer to him. I could sense his own struggles lurking beneath the surface. "What about you? Have you ever felt that way?" He hesitated for a moment, his eyes flickering with something deeper. "Yeah. After my mom passed, I felt lost. I thought I had everything under control, but I was just pretending. It took a lot for me to realize that." His honesty struck a chord within me. I could see the cracks in his armor, and it made me want to reach out to him. "I'm sorry, Lucas. That sounds really hard." "It was," he said, a hint of sadness in his voice. "But I learned that it's okay to feel things, to let people in." As he spoke, I felt a wave of emotions crash over me. The weight of my own unfulfilled desires pressed down on my chest. I wanted to let Lucas in. But what would that mean for me? For Jonathan? Sometimes I think about what it would be like to just be free. I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. To chase what makes me happy without worrying about anyone else. Lucas looked at me, his gaze intense. "You deserve that, Ilara. We all do. Life is too short to live in fear of what others think." His words struck me with a powerful truth. I felt a mix of guilt and longing. Could I really consider a future with Lucas? Was I ready to confront the reality of my feelings? "I just don't want to hurt Jonathan," I said, my voice trembling. "He's done so much for me." "I know," Lucas replied softly. "But what about you? What do you want?" His question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I realized I had been so focused on loyalty that I had neglected my own needs. The thought of pursuing something real with Lucas filled me with both excitement and fear. I don't know, I admitted. But I can't ignore how I feel when I'm with you. Lucas smiled gently, a mixture of relief and understanding washing over his face. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just know that I'm here for you, whatever you decide." His words wrapped around me like a warm embrace. In that moment, I knew I had to confront the weight of my secrets and desires. It was time to explore what lay ahead, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. As the nights passed, the secret moments I shared with Lucas became a whirlwind of laughter and stolen kisses. Each time our lips met, a thrill surged through me, igniting feelings I had buried deep inside. I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me, and every look we exchanged felt like a spark that threatened to ignite a fire. One evening, as we sat on the porch, the soft glow of string lights surrounded us, creating a bubble just for the two of us. Lucas leaned in closer, his breath warm against my skin. "You know," he said softly, "I never thought I could feel this way again." I looked into his eyes, searching for the truth behind his words. "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart racing. "I mean, after everything I went through." He paused, his voice laced with vulnerability. "I thought I was done. But being here with you, it feels like I'm alive again." The sincerity in his voice sent a rush of warmth through me, and I found myself leaning in, unable to resist the pull between us. "I feel it too," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But what about Jonathan?" The mention of his name hung heavy in the air. I felt a pang of guilt twist in my stomach, a reminder that every moment with Lucas was a step further away from loyalty. "He trusts me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What if he finds out?" Lucas's expression shifted, a shadow passing over his features. "What we have is real," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "But I don't want to be the one who tears you apart." A silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken thoughts. I wanted to reach out and touch him, to pull him closer, but the weight of my commitment to Jonathan kept me frozen in place. "I can't keep living like this," I said finally, my voice trembling. "It feels like I'm lying to everyone, including myself." "Then what do we do?" Lucas asked, his tone a mix of hope and desperation. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill my lungs. "I don't know. I don't want to hurt him, but I can't ignore what I feel for you." My heart ached at the thought of Jonathan, the man who had once been my everything. Lucas reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine, sending a jolt of electricity through me. "You deserve to be happy, Alara, no matter what that looks like." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but I couldn't shake the guilt that clung to my heart. "It's not that simple," I whispered. "I'm scared of what will happen if I choose you. What if it all falls apart? Then we figure it out together," he said, squeezing my hand gently. "I'm not asking for forever right now. Just a chance to see where this can go." The sincerity in his eyes made my heart flutter, yet the thought of Jonathan's face filled me with dread. "I wish things were different," I said, tears stinging my eyes. I never wanted to be in this position. Lucas wiped a tear from my cheek, his touch tender and reassuring. Neither did I. But sometimes, we have to face the truth, even when it hurts. In that moment, I felt a shift within me. A part of me wanted to let go of the chains that bound me to my loyalty. But could I really do it? Could I leave behind the life I built with Jonathan for something uncertain with Lucas? As I gazed into Lucas's eyes, I realized that my heart was already making the choice. I was falling for him, and it terrified me. Yet the thrill of desire mixed with the guilt of betrayal created a storm inside me that I couldn't ignore. "Maybe we need to take a step back," I suggested, my voice shaky. "Just until I figure things out." Lucas nodded, his expression pained but understanding. "I'll wait for you, Alara." I just want you to be happy, whatever that looks like." With those words, I felt the weight of my inner battle grow heavier. The reality was clear. I was on the brink of a decision that would change everything. Could I reconcile my growing love for Lucas with the loyalty I felt for Jonathan? Only time would tell, but for now, I was lost in a web of desire, caught between two worlds. The sound of the front door creaking open sent a jolt through my body. Jonathan was home early. My heart raced, not just from the surprise, but from the weight of the secrets I had been carrying. I quickly rearranged my face into a mask of calm, but inside, I felt the storm brewing. "Hey, Alara, I thought I'd surprise you," Jonathan called out, his voice warm and inviting. He stepped into the living room, his presence filling the space that had felt too empty for too long. "Hi. You did surprise me," I replied, forcing a smile. "I thought you wouldn't be back until late." He shrugged, oblivious to the chaos swirling in my mind. "I finished up early. How was your day?" "Just the usual," I said, trying to sound casual. But my thoughts drifted to Lucas and the thrill we had shared just days before. The laughter, the stolen kisses. They felt like a different life now, one that I could not reveal to Jonathan. As we talked, I felt the tension in the air. I could not shake the guilt that filled my heart. Jonathan deserved my honesty, yet I was trapped in this web of deceit. I ran my fingers through my hair, trying to calm myself as I studied his face. He looked so happy, so unaware of the turmoil beneath my surface. "Is everything okay?" Jonathan asked, tilting his head slightly. "You seem a little distracted." "Just tired, I guess," I lied, forcing a laugh. "You know how it is with work." He nodded, but I could see the concern in his eyes. I wanted to scream, to tell him everything I felt, but the words got stuck in my throat. Later that evening, I received a text from Lucas. My heart raced as I read it. "Can we talk?" My fingers hovered over my phone, torn between the urge to respond and the reality of Jonathan sitting right next to me. "Who is it?" Jonathan asked, noticing my hesitation. "Oh, just a friend," I replied quickly, tucking my phone away. I felt the guilt wash over me again, heavy and suffocating. After dinner, I found myself alone in the living room, unable to shake the feeling of dread. I picked up my phone and texted Lucas back. "Can you come over?" I knew it was risky, but I needed to see him. I needed to confront the feelings that were growing too strong to ignore. A short while later, Lucas arrived. The moment he stepped through the door, the air shifted. My heart raced, and I could feel the electricity between us. "Hey," he said softly, his gaze piercing through me. "I wasn't sure if you would want to see me." "I needed to," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "Things are getting complicated." Lucas stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "I can see that. How are you holding up?" "I'm trying to pretend everything is normal," I said, feeling the tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "But it's not. Jonathan is here, and I feel like I'm lying to him every moment." "Maybe it's time to be honest," Lucas suggested gently. "You deserve to be happy, Alara." I shook my head, fear gripping my heart. But at what cost? Jonathan trusts me. I can't just throw that away. "Do you love him?" Lucas asked, his tone serious. I hesitated, the question hanging in the air. "I care about him, but I don't know if I'm in love with him anymore. Not like I am with you." His expression softened, and I could see the hope in his eyes. "Then you have to make a choice. Do you want to keep living this lie, or do you want to explore what we have?" The weight of his words settled heavily on my chest. I took a deep breath, feeling the reality of my situation crash down upon me. I was at a crossroads, and the path ahead was uncertain. I don't want to hurt anyone, I said, my voice trembling. Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the best outcomes, Lucas replied, reaching out to touch my hand. You deserve to be with someone who makes you feel alive. In that moment, I realized I was standing on the edge of a reckoning. I could continue living in this web of lies, or I could risk everything for the chance at true love. The choice was mine, and I knew it was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I stood in the middle of my living room, my heart pounding like a drum. The air was thick with tension, and I felt as if I were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into the unknown. Lucas had just left, and his presence still lingered, filling the empty spaces Jonathan left behind. I could almost feel his warmth beside me, but reality crashed in like a cold wave. I was torn between two worlds, the life I built with Jonathan and the wild, passionate connection I felt with Lucas. Why is this so hard? I whispered to myself, pacing back and forth. I recalled the nights spent with Lucas, laughing and sharing secrets, and the way his touch ignited something deep inside me. Each memory felt like a dagger, twisting in my heart. I knew I was falling for him, but what would that mean for Jonathan? I found myself sitting on the couch, the weight of my thoughts pressing down on me. I pulled out my phone and hesitated before texting Lucas. "Can we talk?" I typed and hit send. My fingers trembled as I waited for his reply. A moment later, my phone buzzed. "Of course, I'll be there in a few." Just those words sent a rush of emotions through me, excitement mixed with fear. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. When Lucas arrived, the air shifted again, charged with unspoken words. I motioned for him to sit, and he did, his eyes searching mine. "What's going on, Alara?" he asked, concern etching his features. I hesitated, struggling to find the right words. I can't stop thinking about us," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "It feels like I'm living a lie with Jonathan, and yet I'm terrified of what that means." Lucas leaned closer, his expression softening. "You don't have to be scared. Whatever you choose, I will support you. But you need to be honest with yourself." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but they also made the weight of my decision heavier. "What if I choose you, and it all goes wrong?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What if I hurt Jonathan? He deserves better." Lucas reached out, his hand brushing against mine. "You deserve happiness too, Alara. You have to think about what you truly want. Living for someone else is not living at all." I looked down at our hands, our fingers almost touching. The warmth of his skin sent shivers down my spine, and I felt the pull between us grow stronger. "I don't want to hurt him, but I can't ignore what I feel for you," I confessed, tears brimming in my eyes. "It's like I'm caught in a storm." "Maybe it's time to face that storm," Lucas said gently. "You can't keep pretending everything is fine. You have to choose what feels right for you, not what feels safe." His words pierced through the fog of my confusion. I thought about Jonathan's smile, his kindness, the years we had together. But then I thought about the laughter with Lucas, the spark that ignited my spirit. My heart ached with the impossibility of the situation. "Do you think there's a way for me to have both?" I asked, my voice cracking. "I don't want to lose Jonathan, but I can't pretend I don't feel this connection with you." Lucas sighed, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "The truth is, it might not be possible. Relationships are built on honesty, and if you choose me, you will have to be honest with Jonathan." I nodded, realizing the weight of my choices. "I just feel so lost," I admitted, tears spilling over. "What if I choose wrong?" "Life is all about choices. We learn from them, good or bad," Lucas replied softly. "You have to trust yourself. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you." As I looked into his eyes, I felt a spark of clarity. This wasn't just about love. It was about figuring out who I truly was and what I wanted. The thought of stepping into the unknown was terrifying, but I knew I couldn't keep living a lie. I had to embrace my truth, even if it meant breaking someone's heart. I need time to think, I finally said, my voice steadier than before. But I know I can't keep living like this. Lucas nodded, understanding washing over his face. Take all the time you need. Just remember, whatever happens, you're not alone. As he left, I felt a mix of fear and relief. The storm was coming, and I was ready to face it. It was time to discover who I really was, even if the path ahead was uncertain. As I sat on the edge of my bed, the weight of my decision pressed heavily on my chest. The room felt different now, filled with a sense of freedom that was both exhilarating and terrifying. I looked around, taking in the familiar sights that had once brought me comfort. These walls had witnessed my struggles, my joys, and my heartaches, but now they seemed to echo a new beginning. I took a deep breath and replayed the moment I had confronted Jonathan. The conversation was still fresh in my mind. I can't live this lie anymore, I had said, my voice trembling but firm. Jonathan's face had fallen, the hurt in his eyes piercing through me like a knife. Are you saying you want to leave? He had asked, disbelief mingling with sorrow. I had nodded, feeling the tears well up, but knowing deep down that my choice was necessary. Now, reflecting on that moment, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. I had chosen authenticity over comfort, and it was time to embrace the path ahead. The lessons I learned in this journey were profound. I had discovered that true happiness comes from being honest with myself and others. With renewed determination, I grabbed my phone and texted Lucas. Can we meet? I need to talk. The reply came quickly, his enthusiasm evident in the words. Of course. Where? I suggested a cafe nearby, a place that felt neutral yet inviting. When I arrived, the sun was just beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the tables outside. I spotted Lucas, and my heart raced at the sight of him. He stood there, his smile brightening the space around him. Hey you, he called out, waving me over. I felt a flutter of excitement and nerves as I approached. Hey, I replied softly, taking a seat across from him. His eyes searched mine, and I could see the concern etched on his face. What's on your mind? He asked gently, leaning in closer. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my words. I talked to Jonathan. I ended things. The admission hung in the air, and I watched Lucas's expression shift from concern to understanding. That's a big step, Alara. How do you feel? I feel free, I said, surprised at how true those words felt. But also scared. I've never done anything like this before. Lucas reached across the table, his hand brushing against mine. You're brave for choosing what you want. It's not easy, but it's worth it. I'm here for you. His words wrapped around me like a warm embrace. I gazed into his eyes and saw the kindness and support that I had longed for. I want to explore this, us, but I need to be sure. I don't want to rush into anything. I understand, he said, his voice steady. We can take our time. I'm not going anywhere. There was something so comforting in his reassurance, and I felt a spark of hope ignite within me. As we continued to talk, I shared my fears and dreams, and he opened up about his past, revealing vulnerabilities that deepened our connection. I've struggled with my own choices, he confessed. But meeting you has changed everything for me. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. I never thought I would find someone like you, someone who makes me feel seen. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and with each passing moment, I felt more empowered. I was no longer hiding behind the shadows of my past. I was stepping into the light of my own desires. As the evening wore on, I knew that this was just the beginning. I had chosen my path, and while it was uncertain, it was mine. The journey of love was deeply intertwined with self-acceptance, and I was ready to embrace both. "Let's make a promise," I said suddenly, my heart racing. "No matter what happens, we'll be honest with each other." Lucas nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "I promise." With that, I felt a new chapter unfold before me, a chapter filled with hope, courage, and the promise of love. I was ready to forge my own path, no longer weighed down by the past, but free to discover what the future held. Share this story if you believe that choosing authenticity can lead to true happiness. Leave a comment about a moment when you took a leap of faith and how it transformed your life. Subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.